And my question was, what's the end goal? Like, what are you trying to get to? That
Hmm.
defines a lot of this, right? And I think to their credit, or just general market in general, things are changing so quickly in terms of the models and who's leading today versus who was leading yesterday, that is hard to sort of land on something and commit to it today.
Yep.
As a leader, how would you recommend people think about the quickly changing landscape?
The first thing I would tell people is we need to stop thinking about models, because models are a commodity, right? It's a
Mm-hmm.
plug and play. The equivalent is, how often do you think about which particular brand of gas do you want to fill? Do you care about whether it's a Shell or a BP or an Arco, as opposed to caring about what is the octane level of gas,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is it premium fuel or regular fuel? And that's, I think, the key, because we are starting to see the whole notion around model as a service, where
Yeah.
models become plug and play. And if you
Mm-hmm.
especially see what has happened since DeepSeek was launched, the inference costs have significantly dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And so the notion around which model to use becomes slightly less important unless you're doing groundbreaking research work.
Yeah.
And 99 point significant number of government entities are not doing that level of research work, unless, of course, you're a national lab or a regional lab. And so model as a service is going to become the prevalent notion, which also means that there are certain cost parameters around model as a service that you can start going and looking at, because cost has been a big issue. Token costs, how much are you spending? And
Mm-hmm.
when people go and do these AI proof of concepts, they don't necessarily think through how is it going to scale.
Yeah.
They look at the proof of concept through a lens of limited prompts, through a lens of limited responses from their prompts. So there's another concept that's been catching up, and that's called semantic caching. Not unlike what we talk about caching from an internet browser perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If the context of responses and prompts are similar, they can reuse it in these environments. And this is something I'm going to talk about, Azure OpenAI and our AI Foundry. That does it really well. So what happens in this is, one, you can use any number of models. In fact, you can plug and play models behind the scenes, leaving the end user experience the same. And then
Yeah.
the second, your model operational cost drops through semantic caching. Cost is such a big parameter in overcoming this AI production paradox. And what I mean that is that step from moving from a proof of concept into production and operationalizing that system comes down to, are we actually saving money and streamlining processes, or is it just a science experiment?
Well, and it's going to get more important as we get deeper into deployment of these applications, agents, call it what you may, right? And let's talk about the White House announcement of the policy that's coming out. I covered it a little bit last week, but you're more on the front line. I'm just a news consumer. So tell me what that is intended for and what it's going to do.
Well, I mean, I think the AI action plan is a very good step forward
Yeah.
for all of us, right? There has been some concerns that, if you remember, as the one big beautiful bill was in the House, there was concern around putting a moratorium around AI regulation,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And that was taken off the bill by a 99-1 vote.
Right.
What the AI action plan does, it refocuses the efforts on American AI dominance,
Hmm.
both from an infrastructure perspective, but also from a workforce perspective. And this is perhaps the piece that I'm most excited about. It's not just about the AI technology, but it's also about making sure AI technology works for everyone. And you'll probably hear me talk a lot about this. It's about diffusing that technology, the democratization of this technology. Because unless everybody gets to use it, we are actually not going to see the societal benefits of using AI. Right?
Right.
It's the same thing that happened with internet. It's the same thing that happened with cell phones. When it was limited to a few people, I mean, you probably remember my comments around ARPANET. Most people might not even remember what ARPANET is. It
Mm.
certainly predates my birth. And so not many people knew about it. But by fast forward a couple of decades, when commercial internet became relevant, now can you imagine a life without internet and what it would do for us? It would be very difficult for me, for someone who's always connected, right?
Yeah.
Part of that AI dominance piece is the AI infrastructure. And if you trace back to Project Stargate, if you takes back to our earlier conversation during the podcast around, looking at putting data centers in space, how do we take all of that progress and actually formalize it in a plan where there is consistent investment? A big piece of it is already in motion, I think, and this is where I'm going to connect a couple of dots. If you're looking at the trade talks, there's significant amounts of investment coming in. Japan's probably one that is an outlier that I think we should talk about. SoftBank Vision Fund very early on stepped in and said, put in massive support
Yeah.
behind Project Stargate. I think there's other entities. NTT Tech is going to be a big one. They are already a major data center operator and provider, perhaps either leading or a close second to Rackspace in the data center industry. And so we're going to see some major investments happening. I do think cities, especially smaller cities, need to pay a lot of importance to this, especially in the heartland.
Hmm.
Why? Because if you look at the plan for Project Target, and this is where I think it's very important for folks to think about it beyond just an AI project. The reality is these are economic development projects. They
Yeah.
are fundamentally changing land use, and as a result of that, becoming job drivers in those markets, leading to need for more housing, more infrastructure, more education. And for those small cities and counties to be able to meet that need, they need to start planning yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And this is where I think folks like yourself will come in very handy, because I think getting ahead of that curve is going to be extremely important. A great example, and I think if you've been to DC and if you go um, down Highway 7 to either Leesburg, Loudoun County, that entire corridor, the data center corridor,
Hmm.
they have fundamentally changed land use. There is literally millions of square foot of data center space that has been built out there in the last 2 to 3 years,
Yeah.
including Amazon's second headquarters that's in Arlington, right?
Hmm.
And so I think it's getting ahead of that curve and planning for that, putting in the right service delivery mechanisms. And of course, I'll be remiss if I don't mention AI can help in that.
Yeah. Well, in our backyard here in Knoxville, Oak Ridge National Labs, TVA, huge assets to this community. TVA is starting to build nuclear power plants. I mean, they already have some, but it's small modular. They're getting into it, uh,
Yep.
and Oak Ridge Labs is doing the amazing research on power. So I think the wheels are in motion, and you're right in terms of economic development. Uh, Counties and cities and chambers of commerce need to be thinking about how they're going to promote their own regions for this next wave.
Yes, yes. If you remember, we've seen this happen a couple of times.
Yeah,
When Amazon was searching for their second headquarters,
yeah, warehouses.
uh, when Tesla was out there trying to set up, Giga Tesla, I think it was ended up in Texas, but I think
Hmm.
Oklahoma had a pretty good bit in there. A couple of other, Kansas, I think, was in the running as well. And so the notion around attracting businesses and attracting data centers is going to be very interesting, because, well, it's not just about space and incentives, it's also about energy.
Yeah.
It's also about having the right workforce, having the
Hmm.
right workforce pipeline, right? And so it's a pretty interesting continuum, um, that a lot of tech companies are facing as well, that I think governments are going to start having to think about.
So as you know, individuals that are just entering the workforce, um, you're starting to see some challenges, right? There's a notion that, let's just take junior developers not necessarily finding the kind of work that they used to 2 years ago or last year. How do we retool our um, recent graduates in, let's just say, computer science, right? They've got coding degrees and they've built things from scratch. There is a huge place for that talent in this new economy, even though code is writing itself now. Let's talk a little bit about that.
I think, yes, code is writing itself, but the key skills around problem solving, analytics, they don't go away, right?
Hmm.
You still need to think about what is that code going to do, right? Are we
Okay.
putting together a 311 solution versus are we putting together just another case management solution?
Hmm.
And what is that case management solution supposed to do? What is the user experience supposed to do? Is it 5 clicks, 15 clicks, 22 clicks to get to the end of the form? And these are the kinds of skills, right? We often talk about human centricity in design,
Yeah.
but human centricity in design is quite nuanced. And as much as it is a science, it is also an art. And I think most people that are coming out of educational institutions today are slightly behind the curve because of the progress with AI. And you will hear a lot of the tech CEOs, including Jensen Huang, who talks about how computer science is not going to be a very good major to study in, right? Given some of the things that AI can do.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and you may agree or disagree, we always need to have sort of a balanced approach to education.
Yeah.
And yes, AI is going to be disrupting it. But irrespective of which major you choose, I think we'll have to go down this path of a major and a minor, especially when we start thinking about technology and technology centric majors.
Well,
Whether
and I
you're in
think it's,
healthcare,
yeah.
go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say it's a great time to be a generalist, right? I'm a generalist. I'm interested in everything. Um, but it's a good time to be a generalist because you're interested in everything. And then you can apply real world, like, a consultant. What is a consultant? Good ones that are strategic consultants are generalists. They can apply different tool sets to solve your problem. And you're right. That skill is going to be paramount as you try to use these very powerful tools in trying to get outcomes.
And the notion around jack of all trades and a master of couple or maybe
Yeah.
five is what's going to catch on.
Hmm. Wow. Well, Widow, that's a powerful way to wrap this up. Again, thanks for your time. I know we titled this AI and GovTech, the race to dominance. I think we hit on those topics.